to the aerial view of the fitness industry, show 4. And this show has come about as many of you are working so hard in your businesses that you don't actually get a chance to stand up and kind of see what's going on around the industry. So I go after world leaders in our industry who are across multiple industry sectors and multiple countries to give you a truly aerial view of the industry. What you'll love about this series is that I chew the thin with an international industry legend in a raw, authentic interview. There is no editing, and I actually have no idea what the guest is going to say, so it can go absolutely anywhere. So far, we've chatted with Mr. Retention, Paul Brown, the CEO of Les Mills Asia Pacific, Ryan Hogan, and the founder of Keep Me, Ian Mullane. And you can see all of these on the Active Management YouTube channel. And today, I'm super stoked to have the immense pleasure to welcome someone I've never spent time with, and that is Matthew Januszek. Now, did I say that right, Matthew?
Yeah, just about Januszek, but you was pretty close.
Well, the two of us have run parallel in the industry, I guess, for a number of years, but this is the first time we've actually sat down one-on-one and just chewed the thin. So from a garage gym to a global brand leader, Matthew is one of the fitness industry's leading entrepreneurs. He's the co-founder of Escape and has grown that business from a house of brands to designing cutting-edge functional fitness concepts, setting trends in products, education and programming, and sustaining ethical standards of manufacturing. Now, he's worked across bucket loads of brands: UFC, One Rebel, Equinox, David Lloyd, Tribe, Third Space, 24-Hour Fitness. We shouldn't mention them at the moment, should we, Matthew? Six Senses, and many, many more. He's now a leading functional movement expert and leading a global community in that area. If you follow him, if you have a MyZone belt, you'll see the workouts that he does that really allows you to kind of escape in those workouts. My God, I don't think I've seen anyone in the industry and the business side work out as hard as you, Matthew. You're also a serial learner. I love this in your bio. You said you're always listening on how people achieve success. And as a result, you now have your own podcast as well, which is called Escape Your Limits. That is equal with the other top podcast in the industry, the Fitness Business Podcast. So between us, we've got the podcast market nailed. Mate, it's great to have you on board. Thanks for joining us, coming from LA. Whew, big intro. There's a lot you're going to have to live up to in this show.
I know. I'm impressed. Who's that you're talking about?
Well, anytime you
I
want
need to meet him.
Mate, you travel the world, so anytime you need someone to come and introduce you, I can learn that down pat and just introduce you. But you do have businesses across the UK, Germany, Poland, obviously United States. You've got your finger on the pulse in Asia. I'm just curious, for when you first started in the industry, is this the path that you were always going to go, or did you go one route and then change?
Yeah, thinking back, in fact, I had a conversation with somebody earlier today about the subject, and I guess when we started, we, kind of think back, and I didn't really have a clue. I just had a basic idea. I had a great deal of energy and passion, and somehow, with my dad's wisdom and intelligence, I started the business with my dad, who was also working for a company at the time. We managed to sort of figure it out. But it was, now if I had to give anybody any business advice, I think there's very few things that I would reference to how I started, with the exception of having to be extremely passionate and pig-headed and be prepared to sort of slug it out for many, many years. But yeah, no, I didn't. I'd obviously hoped a lot for the business, and I always had a passion for travel and traveling to different countries. So I guess that's been part of what we've done. And I wanted to be involved in fitness, as I had been since I was about 15 years old. So those were things that have been consistent. And my father was an engineer, and that, I guess, even now is his passion. Still involved in it in his mid-70s, and he had a bit of a dream about doing some manufacturing in Eastern Europe, which was Poland, and I guess we did that. So some of it is there, but kind of, now I certainly wouldn't have put this down on a piece of paper, that's for sure.
And what came first for you? Was it the design of the functional equipment, or was it the programming and the education side, or you had that and you went, right, we need a secondary income stream?
Yeah, it was very much the product. So we started, and that's another consistent. We started making, our business was really built on dumbbells and barbells. Really, that's the first product that we decided to design and build. And I think we were probably the first people in England that started to import rubber dumbbells and discs, which they've been around for ages. I suppose most people probably wouldn't even think that there was anything other than rubber, but at the time, every gym had these nice clanky cast iron ones that used to bend and stretch, and you have to re-weld them. So that was what was out in the market, and we came up with an affordable rubber dumbbell and disc, and we did quite well. But I guess, like every business, you've got business cycles, and we've been through many of these cycles. And I guess the first time it happens, it certainly takes you off guard, because you kind of think that you're a genius and you've got a great idea and it will be going on forever. But what you don't realize is that there's competition, and they click onto things, and you have to keep moving. And first time it happened, it did catch us off guard, and we managed to just about catch it in time before it pulled the rug away from under our feet. And after doing it a number of times, we started to realize that as a business, you need to have more dimensions to it. You need to be highly, you need to do whatever you can to differentiate yourself from everybody else. And I suppose for us, it's always been about how we can add value to a product which is kind of a commodity. You can go to China and anybody can get dumbbells. So how do you differentiate yourselves and avoid being commoditized? And one of the things that became apparent as the industry was growing was people needed to know how to use a lot of the training tools that we were supplying. So selectorized machines and cardiovascular machines are fairly intuitive. Anybody could get on one and figure it out. But a kettlebell or a Bulgarian bag or a core bag or anything like that, most people don't understand how to use it. So we really got into that as a way of providing value. And you referred to the podcast, and again, how much work is involved in doing these things, and the amount of effort that goes into them. And we don't charge, we don't sponsor. We just provide this as a way of adding value. And hopefully, if we can help the industry grow and we can help our customers be more successful, then that hopefully will come back, and we'll be successful as a result as well.
So just in that, I got a question I definitely want to ask you about functional training. But before I get to that, I was not taking the piss at all. I was being really serious. You work out fucking hard. Like, you're a hard trainer on the videos that I've seen. So you walk the talk. Like, how often do you train? Because you look fantastic. You look like you're only 21.
25, actually. Or double it.
What's a normal workout week look like for you?
Yeah, I try, and I guess we're connected on my zone, so you can kind of see that, see more or less what I do. But I'll like to get, I'll give Dave a plug, but I like to get about 4,000 to 5,000 reps a month, and so I'll, in order to do that, probably about sort of 4 to 5 or 5 to 6 workouts, depending on where I am and what, whether I'm traveling or not traveling. But that's pretty typical, and I've been doing that now for sort of 35 years, not quite to the same intensity. And I used, in my younger years, I was a bodybuilder and used to compete, and so it was very much about building muscle. And as I'm on the doorstep of being 50, it's different. I want to move well. I want to be fit. I want to have energy for my business, my family. I want a level of strength and cardiovascular fitness. And so it's a little bit more of a rounded approach now. But I still enjoy getting some weight on the bar and throwing that around. It's the one thing. I think that's why we're in such a great industry, because we've all been through this, a tough period. And one of the things that sort of helps me clear it out and think clearly and plan for the future is just going and have a bloody good workout. And that tends to fix a lot of issues. And so it's been now it's more for my own sanity as opposed to it just being to look good at all.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. With Escape being so focused, and I do want to sort of quiz you shortly on what you're seeing across the multiple countries that Escape is involved with. But I'm perhaps interested at this point to ask, with Escape having so many products around functional fitness, whatever the hell functional fitness actually means, one of the things that we're seeing coming out of this COVID crisis is the sharing of equipment and the minimizing of sharing of equipment potentially in a functional workout. Kind of what do you think is going to happen around the functional fitness world in regards to clubs having these pieces of equipment on their gym floor? What's your gut tell you there?
Well, I guess it's different. Like we service a number of different channels, fitness channels. I suppose, as I've, now being in the US, the channels are a lot more noticeable. So I suppose starting my business in the UK, fitness was very much traditional big box clubs, and that was it. Outside of that, there was other opportunities, but there weren't big opportunities financially for businesses like us. So you tended to really focus on that market. And when I came to America, I assumed that that's what it was like here. And a lot of our solutions and products and everything were geared around that. And when I started to talk to people, I couldn't work out why we couldn't figure out a way into the market. But I guess coming over here, what I realized is there's many different areas. We do a lot in the corporate side. We do a lot in the multi-family apartment complexes, where most of those, certainly in America, have got fitness centers. We do a lot in the schools, education markets. There's the fitness, there's the boutiques, and so I suppose it's different. Everyone's got slightly different needs and different solutions, and so as a business, we've tried to understand the channels that we want to play in and put solutions together for that. But I think to answer your question and to try and address all of those channels, I think you're going to start having a lot more stations, and it's something that we've been doing for quite some time, and certain businesses take on that approach and others don't for different reasons. But I certainly think there's going to be a lot more designs where you'll have your own kind of setup, and whether you're doing your own workout or whether you're doing some sort of class, is you'll kind of have your rack there, and you'll do it, and then people can come in and clean it down, and then they can move in. And I suppose one of the things that I've seen for years and never understood, particularly back in England, is you'll sort of have a club of about 5,000 people, and there'll be one pair of each dumbbell from 2 to 40 kilos, one pair. And when you know this, you'll sort of go into the fitness clubs, and there's, the free weight area is always busy, as are the treadmills. And it's like, well, why is there just one pair of 16 kg dumbbells or 20 kg? So I think I think it's good to do that, because you can get on and get off if you can afford to do it. And also I think with what's happening now, it just allows people to sort of keep the spaces clean and hygienic and do everything they need. The only sort of thing I'd add on top of that is, it's also, you read a lot of information on there about how different things spread. And I suppose one of the things that seems to be true about this now, although things change on a daily basis, is that, you can't actually get it from touching things. It's a respiratory, it's spread through the air and droplets. And so, touching equipment and metal surfaces, you probably can't get it. But I do think that the consumer, the people who are coming into the club, are going to want to feel safe. I think the media's done a great job. And I'm not saying it's wrong, but they've scared the living daylights out a lot of people. You know, they don't even want to get in their house in some areas. So I think getting them back into the club and making them feel that it is safe to go in there, I think people are going to have to do things differently to change the perception of what's going on, and that it is a good place and you can work out. So I think there's going to be a need to relook at how you design things and what the story is going to be.
Yeah, I think you're right there. It's interesting. You in a couple of your answers in the discussion, you've talked about the UK. Being based in the US, you kind of definitely get that aerial view now of the UK market. The time we're filming this, the UK market is still pretty much shut down. So what's your aerial view of the UK market at the moment then?
It's a good question, and I wish I had a crystal ball, because I think that's really the only way that you'll be able to answer that question. You know, we are going through almost like sort of monthly reforecasting to decide what we do with our business, and part of being able to do that is to speak to customers and to try and understand what their plans are for the year. Are they going to open the clubs that they say they were going to open? Are they going to do the remodels that they say they were going to do? And at the moment, nobody's really saying anything. So I think it's difficult, particularly in the UK, where my brother heads that business up. It's very difficult to predict what's going to happen. And all we're doing is sort of, you know, is really planning, you know, predicting for the worst case scenario and hoping and planning for the best. And we can come on to what that means for the operators, you know, a little bit later. But yeah, it's really difficult because, you know, clubs are not open. I think a lot of businesses have furloughed a lot of staff in key positions. Even in America, you know, a lot of the people that we work with, although some of the clubs are opening, their head office and their purchasing teams are still not back at work yet. A lot of them are coming back next week. So you know, until that happens, nobody really knows. You know, I think we're just guessing. But if I had to guess, and it would be a guess, looking at what I'm seeing with the businesses that are opening in some of the states near me, and the stories I'm hearing, is I do think that people are looking forward to getting back to normal. I do think some of the facilities that I've spoken to have been extremely busy. I go for my first gym workout tomorrow, and I'm with Equinox, and I've had to sort of book it on an app, and they've only let so many, you know, you can only get so many people in, and then now you've got 90 minutes, I think, to do your workout and sort yourself out and leave. So they're controlling it that way. Although I've got a friend just up the road who went to LA Fitness this morning, and they said it was just absolutely packed. It was busier than what it was previously. So yeah, but I do think that people are going to be, particularly maybe the younger people, as opposed to sort of maybe my parents' age, that have got maybe other things to worry about in terms of sort of, you know, interacting again. But I think a lot of the younger people are just keen to get out. I see the restaurants near us. We went out a number of times, and they're extremely busy. You know, in some of them you just can't get tables because there's, I guess, combined with the reduced capacity and the demand, you can't get in. A lot of the sort of smaller lunchtime takeaways, packed queue for hours to get your lunch, as we did the other weekend. So I do think that from what I've seen anyway, in my experience, I do think people will be keen to get back. And I think it's just making sure that when you do that, people feel confident and safe about sort of getting involved and you know, returning to some kind of normal again.
I think we're seeing, whether it's one of the states in the US, I'm assuming this is going to happen potentially in the UK and even some of the countries in Europe. You just mentioned them with Equinox, that limited number of people and you had to use an app to book in. Putting your consumer hat on for a moment, what was that experience like? Because normally you don't have to do that when you go to a gym, and a lot of gyms are thinking, shit, I'm not sure I really want to have this booking app. Was it friction free for you, or was it clunky? Did it feel weird? What was it like booking in? Like just almost the logistics of it for you.
Yeah, well, we've got obviously I'm sort of in the business and passionate, but between my wife and I, we've got like 3 different groups that we're a member of, and I think one of the things I won't sort of start talking too much about different brands, but I've mentioned them now. But I think one of the things with Equinox that have done very well right from the outset is the communication in between, or as this has been going on, has been pretty outstanding. They have their daily email that comes out to you, and they've got their app where they provide some great information. So I think they've done a good job at making you feel part of the brand whilst you're not going to the club. And I think for I think that's something, and I don't know what other companies are doing, but I think that's been a real important factor for me to, as soon as the email came through, I was used to getting emails through to them. It was a click of a button. It took me through to the app. It had to refresh because they'd obviously changed it, and it showed me the places. Click of a button, I was done. And I was the same for you. I get tons of messages and notifications. I've got apps coming out of my ears. Signing and registering is the last thing I can be bothered to do. If it was difficult, I might sod it. I'll leave it for a month until it opens. But I guess fortunately, I anticipated it being difficult, but it was a click. It logged it into my calendar, which was also good. And I'm ready to go. So I think they've done a good job. I don't know if anyone else is, any other people are like that, but I think it was a good experience. I'm going to go there. I'll see what it's like tomorrow. And then I'm going to decide whether I continue with my membership based on the restrictions and that sort of thing, or whether I'll sort of work out from home for another month before I go back. I'm sort of in that. And I guess there's a lot of people in that stage. And one of the things, I spoke to Adam from Gold's Gym a few weeks ago, and he said something which I think was pretty good, and it made a lot of sense to me after experiencing it. He said that what we've done, he said, just come in and just come in, don't work it, just come in and check it out and see what you think. Come and see what we've done for the club. And I thought that's actually, it's very simple, but it's a good way of you learning what it's going to be like. Just come in the door, come and have a drink, come and see the staff, spend 10 minutes, just check it out. No pressure. You don't have to sign up. Your membership's not going to start. Just come in and see us, and then decide if you want to do that. And I think that's, from being both sides of the thing, I think that's a great initiative.
Yeah, that's really good. Hey, I love how the Equinox app, when you book in, goes straight into your online diary, into your calendar. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's great. I mean, as an industry, you've got to admit, we've been stretched over the last 3 months with our understanding of what technology is and what we can deliver. And we've had to take our training wheels off pretty quick, haven't we?
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess, I suppose I suppose you expect those things when you book meetings and Zoom meetings and that. I suppose we sort of expect for this stuff to all happen and that. So I guess one of the things that I suppose that us, every business is having to deal with now is that people's sort of expectations have shifted, and I suppose we, I suppose that when you go back to another, if hopefully people will come back to the same businesses that they, or the same, be members of clubs that they went before. But I kind of think about, if you think about it, it takes, what do they say, like 21 days to break a habit and 90 days to kind of make it permanent, something like that. I think, if you think about what's happened, in most cases, it's been 3 months that we've been locked down now. And so your habits have been broken. Your patterns have been broken. The fact that you drop into a gym on the way to the shops or on the way back or on the way to dropping your kids off at school, whatever, all those patterns have shifted. So now that sort of automation, and what we've all done is we've found these new patterns. In some cases it's not doing a lot, but we found these new patterns and we've kind of got reasonably comfortable. I love to travel. I used to travel probably 2 weeks out of every 4 or 5. And I really enjoyed it, but I've kind of started to appreciate, where I live and spending a bit more time with my family. And so I'm going to consider how much I go back to that. And even going to the gym, it's kind of like, for me, I work out for a decent amount of time. I used to like a bit of steam and a sauna, But that was, that could be 2 or 3 hours by the time I've got there and got back and had some food and done everything. And it's like, wow, it's quite a commitment. Whereas if I can do let's say a 2-hour workout at home and I'm, I have a shower at home, I'm around. And so, I think I'll certainly consider how to substitute the gym. Maybe I'll have some days where I'll do that, but I do think that there'll be some days where I'll work out at home and I'm here for my family a little bit more. So I think that, all businesses have got that to contend with now, is that people's habits have been broken, and you've really got to think or work hard to convince people that this is, not just safe, but this is a good thing to fit into your day. I think it's going to be very different. And I don't, one of the things that I've had a number of conversations with customers and other business owners is the fact that people think that price and low price is really, really going to be important. And I would probably challenge that. I certainly think that the low cost market is going to do well out of it, but I don't think it's just about low cost. I don't think people are prepared because they can get fitness for cheap. That's going to be enough now. I think people are going to expect value, and the good low cost operators don't just provide a low price. They are, it's very clever about what they do. They provide a lot of value. I was hearing about the guys in Holland about how they've got a great online product and a virtual product, and they apparently it's pretty impressive with what they're doing both in and out of the club. And so although they're a low cost operator, Basic Fit, they're very clever and very innovative, and they've got a nice balance. So I think the reaction is people are just going to want something for cheap, and we've got to bring our prices down as an industry to really survive. And I would certainly challenge that thinking. And I think what people are going to want is, if they are going to make an effort to go to a destination, I think they're going to want a great value. And yes, you've got to have the pricing right, but I don't think it's about cheap. And I think you've got to really, if there's anything that, that I think you can bring forward is the boutiques, although they're probably going to have a difficult time for a while. What they did do that I think the big boxes are going to need to sort of apply is that experience, that personalization, that narrow focus. And I think any brand now coming out of it has got to, they've got to think about narrowcasting instead of broadcasting. I think they need to create communities. I think they need to be a lot more specialized. I think they need to understand the members. I think they need to stand for something. That's one of the things that's become apparent with what's going on in the world at the moment. People are very passionate about a cause, and they want to know what you believe in. They want to see what the leaders believe in and what they're prepared to stand up for. And so I think these mediocre businesses where they're, we serve everybody, one size fits all. I think the days of that are sort of ending, because it's like, well, you're not really anything to anyone. And I think that, the smaller, nimbler businesses that stand for something, that understand their audience, that can communicate in the language of their audience and meet the needs and empathize with them when they're feeling a particular way. And in the world at the moment, there's all kinds of stuff going on. We've got all emotions. And so you need to be able to have a conversation with someone. And if you're trying to be all things to everyone, how can you enter somebody's life and their conversation and understand what they're saying and create a community? You can't do it. You can't do that on that. So I do think that as businesses evolve, you're going to start getting people that will have to niche down a little bit more and do a much better job at what they were doing. And that's not just on the operator side. I think that's on any kind of business, really.
That's fascinating. Some of those things that you just alluded to, Matthew, are like really stimulating some thoughts. The first one that jumps into my mind is very similar to you, although my gym is probably not as extensive as yours at home. For me, it was like, oh my God, I don't have to get in a car and drive 15 minutes, 20 minutes to the gym there and back. Now, I miss the people side of things, but I'd almost forego that friendship for the 30 minutes that I'm going to save in my life by working out at home. But of course, I did go back this week, and there's a big difference between squatting 25 kilos 50 times and 80 kilos 5 times. So I'm still feeling it a little bit. The other interesting thing that I really loved when you were talking was just that whole experience thing and nailing that experience and coming back to that community. And I want to bring you back because you mentioned community. You felt like you were part of the Equinox community because of the emails that you were receiving. Do you think the clubs that had those strong communities prior to lockdown are going to come out of the blocks a lot harder and faster than the ones that are now going, shit, we didn't have a good community back then. We've got to work hard on building that community as well as acquiring customers, as well as trying to get our members back?
Yeah, I think that we underestimate how difficult it is to create a community inside the club. Number one, that's not easy to do, as you well know, and a lot of people know. You've really got to work at that. Now, creating a community outside of the club is even more difficult. And I think what a lot of businesses have done in all areas, suppliers, operators, is they're focused on what happens within the four walls, and then that's it. Now, what you see with the boutiques is that they're fantastic at creating a community outside of their business. The way they use social media, that's another part of the story. With Equinox, they do a great job with the brand, and I sound like I'm plugging them, but it's something I suppose I can relate to. But they, good job on social media, good job with the emails. And although I'm not like you, when I go into the gym, I don't like to really talk to anybody. I stick my earphones on purposely so I don't get disrupted, so I could get on, have a shower, get out, and that's it. So I'm not really part of, in fact, if someone stops me to have a conversation, it's a bit of a disruption because I need to get back. So I'm not, I don't use it as a social thing, and I know a lot of people do, but I think with what they do is they sort of still make you feel as though you're part of something, even though I'm not part of anything and I'm not really interested. But I don't also feel as though I'm just, nobody recognizes me and notices me, and I don't feel I'm valued. So I think it's probably about feeling valued and connected somehow. And I do think that all businesses need to be able to work hard and to be able to create that virtually. And I think there's a number of ways to do that. I think as business leaders, whether you manage a club or the business or whatever, I think you need to be visible. I think using social media and telling people what you're doing and getting out there, as difficult it is, we both know this, getting in front of a camera and talking doesn't come naturally to most people. But I think people want to hear from you, and that's something that you've got to overcome to be able to have that connection. And also using people within your team. They're probably very connected with the members. And I know a lot of people are like, well, I'm worried about doing that in case this person leaves and they do damage to my brand and they say the wrong thing. But that's the world we live in. And I think, getting people in your team to be out there communicating and building those virtual communities. If we have a second phase of lockdown, you've got to be able to do that. And it doesn't just happen. It's not something you can get a marketing company in and do it, in 3 or 4 weeks. It's something that's going to take time, a number of years, and people need to start thinking about that now and getting the right type of people in place to do it.
Now, I'm super conscious of how busy you are because you are busy. I've got 2 more questions for you. I want you to, we've just been talking, I guess, wearing the hat of the consumer and even to a certain degree, the owner. Having you on and the aerial view brings us to a whole component of the industry that I kind of feel has been forgotten. And it might be just because I deal with owners every day, but I kind of feel that the suppliers have almost been forgotten while this has been on, because gym owners they've shut their gyms, so they're not buying anything. But then suppliers also have 5, 10, 15, 20 sales reps or account managers that are out. So they've probably been furloughed. and I guess the mental health of all of our suppliers. You would obviously speak to lots of different ones. How are the fitness industry suppliers doing, I guess, mentally and then economically?
Well, I guess if you think about it, similar to the operators, you know, most of the traditional commercial suppliers that don't deal in the consumer market, you know, they were in a position where, you know, all of our revenue was shut off, just the same as the club side. So, you know, no money coming in, and also probably to make it not saying it's better or worse, but a lot of companies are importing products from Asia. So if you wanted to order a set of dumbbells for your club or a treadmill, that products, the raw materials have probably been ordered, and let's assume that it's not sitting on the shelf in stock, but you know, when your business is rolling, you've probably ordered those raw materials maybe 3 to 4 months out. So the raw materials have got to be ordered. It's got to be manufactured. It's got to be shipped, and then it's put on your shelf. So you're probably looking at about, let's say, 4 to 5 months from the person that says, right, I need some cast iron or rubber or fabric or what have you. So that's quite a long time. So from when this happened, which came on all of us quite suddenly, you know, you've got stuff on order that you're hoping to keep rolling for the rest of the year. So there's a financial pressure because, you know, everybody's going to expect to be paid when those goods are ready to ship. So you got that side. And then, you know, a lot of people like ourselves suddenly received the letters to say, you know, as from a, you know, immediate effect, we're no longer able to pay any more invoices. So you then got the fact of, you got all the products that have been shipped and in clubs or clubs that are not open and all that. And so you kind of got that on the other end where you got all this product that's ordered, and then you've got stuff in the clubs that's not been paid. And then you know, in the middle, you've kind of got your, you know, you've got your staff and you've got your warehousing and everything that goes with it. So when that first happened, I'm sure a lot of people you know, there's panic. It's like, well, what are you going to do? You know, it's a pretty rough situation. Now, we've been fortunate that we've had a consumer part to the business, albeit it's a small part, but we've had that's kept things going.
You mean it was small prior to the 1st of March, and now it's like the major part of the business?
That's right. Yeah. It's you know, that's certainly played a key part in what we've done. And I'm sure there's lots of people in the same position, but you know, what is the impact on that, and how does that relate to people, you know, particularly if you're operating a club? Then it's created a lot of challenges because, you know, the first thing that's happened is I sort of use it as the toilet roll effect. You know, I'm sure it's happened in every country around the world, but, you know, within the first few days, suddenly people realized how important toilet roll was for whatever reason, and they panic bought and stocked up in case they weren't able to get it anymore. And so one of the things that sort of happened is everybody went out and bought a load of fitness equipment for their home. So most of the fitness equipment in general is made, you know, in Asia, a lot of it anyway, a big percentage of it. So what happened? Everybody quickly sold out. You know, it's not a busy time of the year. So you're ordering, think about it, you know, 4 to 5 months, and you know this very well. And then suddenly you're out of stock. So you're not going to get any more product back in for another 4 to 5 months. Now, also don't forget that China had just come out of this COVID situation. So a lot of the factories were just getting back up and running. So they were all experiencing delays. So suddenly you kind of get this shortage, and it's not just the commercial fitness equipment suppliers. It's the big, huge retailers and the likes of Amazon and Walmart and Target and all these guys. They're also in the same boat. So you know, what's happened now, particularly in Asia, is that everybody that's got anything to do with fitness is now channeling all these orders, and it's not just traditional orders, it's the panic effect. So they're thinking, oh, you know, maybe I need to order a little bit more, and maybe there's some extra I need to order. So everybody's gone to these factories, and you can't get the raw materials. So what, you know, we're experiencing in certain products, and I know this is quite common along a lot, you know, we talk to a lot of our competitors, is, you know, you could be up to 6 months to get certain raw materials from China at the moment. 6 months. That's not shipping. That's if you want to order certain, let's say, steel frames, for example, or racks or something like that, then you can contact a number of factories and you'll be told it's 6 months to get the product, raw materials in and produced. Then you've got to ship the product and get it through customs. So you could be looking at, if you haven't got stock of certain items, you could be looking at around about 6 to 7 months, maybe 7.5 months before you get certain things in. Now, what does that mean to people that are listening that have got a fitness business? Well, I would suggest that you quickly think about what you may be looking to do in January 2021, with your new club openings and your new launches and that sort of stuff. Now, there are going to be some suppliers that manufacture in England or America and that, but don't forget that because you can't get product, they're going to be, everybody's going to go to them and then they're going to sell out. So everybody's going to be in a similar position. And so it's a very unusual time. There's a shortage of raw materials. There's panic buying, unusual demand. There's a lot of weird things going on. And my prediction is you're probably going to be well into next year before the supply chain levels out and you're going to be able to get what you want. And what that's going to mean is you're going to pay more money for it. Prices are not going to come down, that's for sure. Shipping costs are going up. Raw materials are in demand. So if you're prepared to pay a little bit more money, you're going to get the product before anybody else. So you're paying a lot more for this stuff than what you thought. Now, an opportunity and a little tip for anybody that's thinking about maybe investing in some stuff is get in early. If you can come out the gate and negotiate, and I'm not just saying this because because we've already planned and we've been speaking to our customers for several months now about this. But if you're in another country and you don't deal with escape, talk to your suppliers as soon as you can. Try to do what a lot of the suppliers are doing is predict what we're going to need to have in the shelves in December, January, February, and start putting some deals together. The days of being able to order stuff and have it there next week, particularly if it comes from China, are going to be gone. And you're going to have to plan a lot better. And as an industry, we're generally not good at doing that. It's like, okay, I need that. Can you get it to me? I want it at the lowest price. I think things are going to change. So certainly with what we spoke about earlier, which is, how gyms are going to change in terms of the design and maybe having more stations for more people and more equipment of different weights and all that sort of stuff. If that's something that you feel you're going to need to do, then, we've really got to start having those conversations like, yesterday, if there's any chance for that to be delivered in a reasonable time.
That's a very valuable insight. Love the idea of clubs being planned better. But yeah, the idea of planning so that you can have that equipment at some stage later at the very end of this year, or probably more likely early next year. Matthew, just a kind of thing that popped into my head when you were talking about, I guess, the financial implications, again, that many gym owners don't know about. And please, if you're watching this is not a pity party for suppliers. I'm just trying to get a good idea of kind of the entire industry. We are going to see some casualties with gyms not reopening. We know that's going to happen. Is there going to be this same financial pressure on some of these suppliers, perhaps the smaller ones that are got their finances just strung out because of what's happened?
Well, I guess if you think about what's going on, like a lot of companies like us, they'll finance their businesses in different ways. But a traditional import-export company will need, in a lot of cases, will need some sort of funding for the stock, because as I said, you're 3 to 4 months out. So whether that's your bank or your savings or whatever, but in most cases, you've got some sort of finance that funds that part. And then you've also got some sort of financial funding on the back end, because you're covering 6 to 9 months. Now, what's happening, and we've seen this, with people that we work with and other suppliers and people that we know, is that the companies, the people that they're banking with or their financial organizations are looking at the fitness industry, and it's there's a bit of a sort of red flag. We've had a number of these conversations both with customers and suppliers, and so what they're doing is they're reducing their credit that they're offering, because it's a business that's at risk. So what you're going to get is you're going to get cash flow issues. Companies are going to struggle because of cash flow, not because there's not sales in there, but they just don't have the cash flow to be able to buy the stock and to get themselves out of a hole. So I would say there's a couple of, and also to impact that, there are a number of businesses that have been very exposed to certain sectors within the industry. And, we know what's happening. We know a lot of club chains are not opening up and closing down locations and that sort of stuff. So paying somebody for fitness equipment's probably going to come quite far down the ranking of, paying your landlord and paying your staff and all that sort of stuff. So unfortunately, what's happening is a lot of people are not getting paid. They're not able to get any funding from the bank, and that is going to potentially, drive people to the wall, or at least put them in a very difficult position to trade effectively like they were before. And that's why I think it's, we've had some great conversations with a lot of the businesses that we work with, and I must say, in my own personal experience, the conversations have been extremely positive. We're all in a very difficult situation. Our customers are not getting paid. We're not getting paid. So we're aware of it. But I think if you do have a supplier, a sort of supplier vendor relationship, just the same as we have with the people we buy from and the people we supply, is it's important to start, have these conversations, because I think if you have the conversations and you can bring, whether it's your banks in there or the people that are funding you, whoever those people are, if you kind of bring them around the table and if you can put some plans in place to say, look, this is what we're going to do, it allows the money to continue to flow. What happens if you close the door and put your head in the sand and don't do anything? It's going to backfire on everybody. We need our suppliers to be able to give us credit. If they can't give us credit, we have a problem. And it's a chain effect. So I think the industry needs to realize that we're all in this together. I know it's a sort of an overused phrase, but we are. We all need each other to be able to succeed. And so I would encourage anybody, in any country that has relationships, is, have those conversations, as difficult it is. Try to put together some plans in place, and that, that prevents a lot of people going, because as it's not, it's cash flow. If you don't have cash flow, that's what drives you out of business. You could have great sales, but if you don't have cash flow, you struggled, and that can be eased by by having good payment terms, both on the supply and the on the sales and buying side. That if you kind of ease that, a bit like what they say, what we've tried to do with COVID is we tried to sort of what's the terminology they use, flatten the curve. And it's a very similar situation with the finances within the industry. What we need to do is try and flatten that curve a little bit. So we've got payments moving, and everybody's prepared to give a little bit, and I think we can be okay. But it's I still think there could be a lot of more casualties to come once the support runs out, which I think in England is, I think there's probably a few months now, the payment protection, that starts coming to an end shortly. I know in the US there's a plan where you've got rent and staff covered for a period of time. Well, that's now starting to come to an end. So suddenly people are going to get hit with these additional costs, and that's where I think we could have some issues if we're not careful.
So the three things I heard there that club owners need to think about in their relationship with their suppliers. Number one, they need to be well planned. Number two, they need to be patient. And number three, there needs to be a degree of empathy with the supplier, like understanding where they're coming from as much as the supplier understanding where the clubs are coming from. And most of those three traits, club owners don't really always have when it comes to their relationships with their suppliers. So no. This is really going to...
Well, it's not a buy. It's not, at the moment, it's not a buyer's market. I think that's, if there's one message, it's like, look, it's not a buy. And we know that because I guess, we've got our own manufacturing facility in China. We've got a Taiwanese partner. So we kind of know what's going on the ground, and we're not buying from a factory, which is what a lot of people do. We're buying the raw materials ourselves from the raw material factories, and so we saw quite some time ago where it's like, forget about negotiating. You're now going to have to say, look, if you want this consignment for your weights or whatever, if you need to pay to kind of jump the queue and to get ahead of it. And so that wasn't the case 12 months ago. You know, you could, there's an element of negotiation based on volume, etc. And that, well, now there's, you know, these guys have got more than enough volume that they can cope with, because you've got some of these big retailers that are just ordering a huge amount of fitness equipment going into people's homes, but it's still made out of the same steel and cast iron. That's what's creating this sort of bubble, because that industry is way bigger than the commercial business, but it's drawing upon the same people that are making the steel and the cast iron.
You know, in 12 months, we'll be able to drive around the streets of every city and equip a new home gym, because everyone's home gym equipment's going to be on the curbside waiting for the council or the municipality to pick it up and take it away.
Absolutely, yeah. God knows where this stuff has gone. It's funny, but you can go, you know, you can look on all, you know, pretty much, I think there's very few websites that you'll find in England or America where you can get dumbbells and kettlebells. You know, I'm sure there's the random one, but in most cases, if you want to buy some dumbbells, you can't get them. And I was even, you know, people sending me stuff about eBay where, you know, people are jacking the prices up, and it's like, you know, they're getting a huge amount for like a pair of dumbbells. You know, these sort of people that are just flipping it, that have got nothing to do with fitness, are realizing that there's money to be made on it. And I've seen some crazy stuff on eBay with
Mate,
you know, that type of thing.
They're your future salespeople. You need to get them and get them on board.
Absolutely, yeah, yeah. But we're, you know, I think it's, you know, we're certainly not trying to capitalize on it. You know, I don't want that, and I don't think a lot of people are. And we, you know, it's not like I'm here to say, you know, come and buy from us because we need the money. And you could make that argument easily. I think what we're trying to say is, look, you know, we need to all work together to plan to sort of get things back moving again. We need. It's a different relationship. I think we're all partners in this, and we all want people to come back into fitness clubs. We all want the industry to thrive and be successful again, and I think we've all, you know, we can all play a good part in sort of creating, you know, making that a success again. I think that's probably, and you know, looking at some of the stuff that's happened during the close down, there's been some great industry panels and debates. You really see the fitness industry coming together and sharing information, and people sitting around the table that have previously competed before. But I think, as to your point, we've not really seen that happen a lot on the supply side. And they, you know, the suppliers play a key part in the industry. You know, they're what helps all that, you know, all these workouts happen. And so it's important that, you know, that they're around the table, I guess.
Well, look, thank you for, I guess, giving us a slight peek behind the curtain of what it's like to be a supplier. I think it allows us as the gym owner to be able to go, oh yeah, I can see their pain. I hadn't thought about their pain because I've been in so much, but I can understand a little bit more about their business model. So I really appreciate your candor and your honesty, and obviously your passion for being a supplier in our industry and also helping gyms survive. Mate, I've got one final question for you. Gazing into a crystal ball, what's your big prediction for the industry over the next 12 months? What do you think is going to happen? Just give me one.
One prediction. Wow, that is a difficult one. I think I'll probably put it in a, you know, because it's such a broad question. It's very difficult to give one answer. But I think what I would say, because you hear there's a lot of doom and gloom, and every time you read the news, even though we talked off camera, you know, you sort of think we're at the end of it, but we've still got quite some way to go, and things could change again, and we're back to square one again. But I do think that. For me, the bit that sort of gets me up in the morning and did when it was, you know, we were going through some pretty worrying times, was that I think it's a really a unique time in history. There's never been anything like this. I don't think. And I think for businesses, it's a really unique time, because if you've been a sort of a, I suppose, a challenger brand or a small business or a startup, or even an established company that's trying to do some interesting stuff. I think that what's happened at the moment is leveled the playing field. So those big brands that you looked up to and thought, wow, you know, I'm never going to be able to compete with them. I think everybody's together, and that means that the companies that are prepared to innovate, the owners and the CEOs and the entrepreneurs and the teams that are hungry and aggressive and prepared to work hard and deal with diversity, for them it's a bloody brilliant time, because I think there's so many companies that have got to a position and they're comfortable and they've got their business model and they're well supported and funded because they produce the numbers, and so their investors are prepared to put money in. All that stopped. You know, the investment world's changed. Where people put their money in has changed. What people are going to be looking for is business people, entrepreneurs, leaders that can deal through a crisis and know how to be nimble, to think, because you know there's a lot of stuff that we don't know that's going to happen. So it's, you know, it's the sort of leaders that are used to sailing when the seas are calm is not what we need at the moment. You know, we need people that are good at handling the ship when we're going through a storm, because it's survival mode. And so I think the, you know, the bit that I would predict is, I think, you know, if you're, you know, as on a personal level, we all need to become those people. We need to learn new skills. You know, we need to be able to deal with being uncomfortable. We need to be able to deal with a huge amount of uncertainty. We need to be able to communicate and build teams of people and give them confidence that it's going to be all right and we're going to get there. We need people to be able, not necessarily follow, but in some ways go along with what we're doing. And I think it's going to, you know, it's certainly going to separate the good businesses from the not so good businesses. And you know, like everything in life is the, you know, the strong will survive, and that doesn't necessarily mean the biggest will survive. You know, I think probably the biggest ones are going to be the ones that will probably find it the most difficult to get through what we're in the middle of at the moment. So I guess that's my prediction about, you know, what's required for the next 12 months.
Mate, I love that. Everyone's together, but the businesses that are hungry, aggressive, nimble, and work hard, it's a bloody brilliant time. End quote. You said that. I'm going to hold you to that. That is excellent. And you're right. The strong will survive as we go through. Matthew, this has been fascinating conversation. I apologise for taking so much of your time and going longer than we probably expected. But it has been superb. And I'm really looking forward to actually seeing you for real one day when we can travel.
Share a beer together, so hopefully one day.
Just like, if anybody is interested and they wanted to get in contact with you or find out more about Escape, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, you can. You can check me out on LinkedIn. That's a good place from a business perspective. Escapefitness.com. If you kind of go on our website, there's a bunch of ways where you can sort of get in touch with me via the website there. There's a sort of an email address that you can go onto on the website, and people have got any questions. And then our podcast, you know, I like to, it is, as you know yourself, it's difficult to keep up with all the social media messages. So I don't always manage to get back to everybody, but what I try and do is to sort of share a lot of what we've been learning, and, you know, sort of be able to get that out to as many people as we can. So yeah, I guess the website and LinkedIn are probably a couple of places you can see me hanging out.
And the podcast name again is Escape Your Limits?
Escape Your Limits, yeah, and you can get it on YouTube and SoundCloud and Stitcher and iTunes, so all the usual places.
We'll put the links in the show notes below so that people can check it out as well. Mate, thanks you so much for your time. Absolutely fascinating. Great to hear today the perspectives from a consumer, a gym owner, and a supplier, giving us that real aerial view of the industry and where we're at. This has been a superb conversation. So, Matthew, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much for inviting me on.